I would like to introduce the moderators for today's session. Vikramjit Roy, who is Head of India, Southeast Asia and Pacific for Officine McAfee Group. He is also Managing Director of McAfee Environmental Solutions Private Limited. We also have Mr. Sridhar Dharmarajan, Executive Vice President and Managing Director of Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence India and MSc Software Indo-Pacific. And Ms. Guramrita Oberoi, founder of a consulting org called Just Be. She's also a co-founder of a motorsports-themed training organization called Track of Sapiens. She's a leadership coach, corporate trainer, and a strategy consultant. With that, I hand it over to Vikramana to take the session forward, please.
Namaskaram. Very warm welcome once again to all to today's session. Today's session is part 2 and concluding session of the Leadership Masterclass, the compelling relevance of Chanakya for challenging times. The part 1 was simply wonderful. It was an eye-opener in terms of the innate relevance of age-old wisdom to modern-day business. In fact, I am so excited about today's session that it's going to be even better than the last one. Without further ado, let me introduce to all of you our session leader for today, Mr. Rajesh Kamath. Rajesh is a keynote speaker, consultant, facilitator, columnist, teacher, coach, and lifelong learner. His purpose is to apply principles from eternal global wisdom to modern organizations. He is known for combining the best of Western and Indian management science to provide leadership consulting, coaching, and learning solutions to the industry. These are a first. For over 25 years, Rajesh has facilitated hundreds of interventions, workshops, training programs, offsites, and the like through his roles in corporates, not-for-profits, and in consulting. In the last 6 years, through his venture, Chanakya Consulting Insights, he has helped transform organizations in diverse industry segments through the integration and adaptation of timeless principles from Indian wisdom. His thought leadership is helping hundreds of managers to reinvent themselves, inculcating the eternal wisdom of India and the world. Rajesh has expertise in building communities. He co-founded More Than HR Global in 2002, which has since then grown into a community of over 16,000 members worldwide. He also co-founded the MTHR Global CXO community, the only one of its kind, which is growing rapidly across India. He also founded a Living Philosophy Study Group, which helps Indians learn Indian philosophy in an engaging manner. An electronics engineer and MBA by qualification, he is a passionate practitioner of Arthashaastra, pranic healing, and Kriya Yoga. With that, over to you, Rajesh, for another exciting session on Chanakya.
Namaskaram, everyone. Thank you, Vikramana. It is so exciting to be here again for part 2 of compelling relevance of Chanakya for challenging times. The last time's response and the generous feedback that came after that makes me believe even further about the relevance of this wisdom that is 2,500 years old. So it's exciting to take you into this journey further now. Last time, we spoke about leadership. I know that there are some people who have joined us only today, so I'm going to do a quick recap in a while. We spoke about leadership and what makes a leader. But this time, I'm going to introduce you to the tools of leadership that can help you become a better Swami or Swamini, that's leader, or even grow your existing Swamihood. So that's the exciting journey we have for you today. At the end of about 35 minutes of my presentation, I'm also going to introduce you to one such Swami who has been using these tools for the last 3+ years. I'm happy to tell you that there are at least 30 such Swamis or Swaminis who are using some or all of these tools of Indian wisdom. Isn't that exciting? So let's get into the session. A quick recap. Last time I introduced you to PULSE. PU means purpose, L stands for legacy, S for sustainability, and E for economic well-being. Together they spell prosperity. Any one of them missing either makes that prosperity short-lived or that prosperity itself is limited. That's one thing that we covered. We also introduced you to Arthashaastra being the science of prosperity. We looked at the book of calamities and the types of calamities. Also a three-part approach towards addressing calamities. Calamities is the name given to challenging times by Chanakya. We also looked at the cycle of leadership referred to as Chatushtam because of its four parts, which are creation, consolidation, expansion, and renewal or succession. The one who does all of this is called Swami, the holistic leader. We also looked at the differences between Raja and Swami. Going back to calamities, it is not very easy or almost impossible to have any control on natural calamities. But it is possible to have control on man-made calamities. Last time, I spoke about man-made calamities also having categories. And I mentioned to you that a subcategory is something called as vices of self. And vices of self is referred to as Purush Vyasan. Now, the key to avoiding them lies in retaining the essence of the Swami or Swamini. And this can be understood how to overcome them by referring to the three tools of Swami. They are VID. VID is easy to remember if you pronounce it as vid. That's easy to remember because it rhymes with COVID. So you need vid to beat COVID. Now, let's understand what these VID stand for. They stand for Vinay, Indriya, and Dincharya. It is easy to understand what happens if VID is not there. So we will do that by the help of a story. This story is of King Nahush. And that figure over there, that image itself will tell you a part of the story. Let's start. Just like last time, our story begins in Svargalok. And once again with Indra, the god of the heavens. This time, Indra had killed Vritasur, a very powerful Asur. The way he had killed him was through deception. And for that, Indra felt a lot of repentance. So much so that he went away from heaven just to meditate to be able to overcome that. The problem was he disappeared for days. And then months passed. The Devas all got together, Agni, Vayu, Varun, and so on. And they said, we have to find an alternative. They consulted their Guru Brihaspati and decided on the next best option, the best king from Prithvilok. That king was King Nahush. He was a predecessor of the Pandavas. Now Nahush was a perfect Swami, a good leader. And he was loved by his people. That seemed to make him the perfect choice. So all the Devas persuaded him to become the king of the heavens. Being a Swami, he refused, saying that that exalted position is not for me, an ordinary human being. However, once they convinced him that they would give him their powers, he agreed. At first, everything seemed perfect. He was a good administrator, a great leader, and he treated his people well. But after some time, the unlimited exposure to unlimited power got to him. He started becoming haughty and arrogant. He started enjoying all the objects of heaven, including Airavat the elephant and so on. But he started scolding people for not paying enough respect. He demanded that stories and poems be written of him and plastered over the walls of the Mahal. Things came to a head when he saw the queen of Indra, Shachi, in the royal garden. Shachi was not only beautiful, she was a powerful woman. And in fact, she was the reason why Indra remained on the righteous path at most times. She knew she couldn't resist him for very long, but Nahush said that she should be my queen because now I own this throne of the Lord of Heavens. He persisted. Shachi consulted now the Guru Brihaspati once again. Fortunately, Brihaspati, along with the other devas, came up with a brilliant plan. Now, through her dhyan, Shachi was able to divine that Indra had hidden in the stalk of a lotus at the bottom of the ocean. She could go and meet him through her powers and convince him to come back at the time she would inform him. In the meantime, she went and met Nahush. Nahush's joy knew no bounds. She said, I am willing to accept you, but only after 15 days. I am performing a Mahayajna. At the end of that, I want you to come and pick me up from the place of the Yajna and take me to the palace. But you shouldn't come on horseback or in a chariot like ordinary kings. You should come in a palanquin, a doli that is being carried by 8 great rishis. Nahush thought that is not a problem, but he didn't know what a trap he was getting into. On the appointed day, the 8 rishis agreed to pick up the doli because it was the Lord of the Heavens, and they didn't have any ego about it. One of them was Agastya Rishi. Now, Agastya Rishi was of short stature. What they did, obviously, the doli tilted a little in his direction, and that slowed progress. The impatient Nahush took out his foot from the doli and he kicked Agastya Rishi and he said, Sarpa, Sarpa, which means move on, man, move on. Agastya Rishi became enraged. He turned back and he cursed him and he gave him the shrap, you become a Sarpa now. And Nahush was converted to a snake slithering on the ground, as you can see over there. Now, what are the lessons from this story? Nahush had transformed friends from a Swami to a Raja to a snake that was crawling on the ground, all because of 6 vices of man, or shall I call it human. Those 6 vices are as follows. Nahush expressed lust for Shachi. He showed anger, which became the final straw for Agastya Muni. He showed greed for the objects of heaven. He displayed pride and arrogance. And finally, he was foolhardy to believe that the good would last forever. Friends, let me introduce you to Indriya Jaya. Now, Indriya Jaya, Chanakya says, is about control of the senses. But the senses are only the control of the mind. So control of the senses with the purpose of Vinay, says Chanakya, should be secured by giving up LAGPAS. You can remember it as LAGPAS, which is lust, anger, greed, pride, arrogance, and foolhardiness. Lust can be of the physical kind, but it can also be an obsession of power. Foolhardiness are extremities of emotion under which decisions taken always go awry. Now, the question is what to do about this. Indriya Jaya suggests that the key to controlling them actually lies in acknowledging the lack path within. Don't look at them in others. First, start looking within you. And once you notice one or more of those, then act on them persistently. That's the key to Indriya Jaya. Now, Indriya Jaya can be acted on by simple do's and don'ts. What should the leader do? I have created these on the basis of my work with Swamis. I shall read out to you the do's and you can read the corresponding don'ts. First, a leader needs daily Swadhyay. Swadhyay is self-study, but you could also think of it as study of self. It is study of our scriptures, or for that matter, study in your domain of interest. It's extremely important to do Swadhyay. Second, pause before reacting. Third, catch people doing the right things. It's easy to catch them making mistakes. Speak in terms of contribution, not in terms of money. Notice their strengths and also appreciate them thoughtfully and authentically. Most of all, feel gratitude, friends, because Chanakya calls it Krutagya, and it's the opportunity to be Swami or Swamini, the leader, and be a role model for that. Isn't that wonderful? Now, is there another way to develop Indriya Jaya? Let's learn it through the story of Shrikant Bolla. Now, Shrikant Bolla is a Swami, a CEO who is based in Hyderabad. The CEO of Bolland Industries, his simple mantra is vision is more important than sight. Let me share his story. Shrikant was born blind, and that too in an impoverished family. In fact, it was so bad, his neighbors suggested to his parents to get rid of him. Luckily, they kept him and gave him a good education. He topped his school and even his 12th standard. He asked for admission to IIT because he was so good at the sciences. But they refused him because they never had a blind student earlier for a difficult cause. He applied to MIT in the US and fortunately he got admission there. Not only did he complete his graduation, he got a double master's. He could have been a success over there, but he chose to come back to Bharat. Why? Because his purpose was to provide livelihood to those like him, people with disabilities. Friends, he created Bolland Industries. Bolland Industries today is a 150 crores company in a short span of 6 to 7 years. It has got 4 manufacturing facilities. They provide packaging solutions and a host of other products, all eco-friendly, made from recycled paper on natural material like areca leaves. More than 70% of their employees are people with disabilities. Friends, he had adopted the pulse, which is purpose, legacy, sustainability, economic well-being, as well as Indriya Jaya. Having met him, interacted with him, and being in touch with him, you can say that he's been able to control his lack path and he projects love with everyone. Now, you may ask, is there a systematic way to become Indriya Jaya? Chanakya says, yes. Indriya Jayasya Moolam Vinayaha, says Chanakya. Now, what do we do with this? So I'm going to introduce you to an 8-step learning process. Shushrusha, Shravana, Grahana, Dharana, Vijnana, Uha, Apoha, Tattva Abhinivishta Buddhim, Vidya Vinayati Na Itaram. That means Vinay is that whose intellect develops these 8 qualities. What are those 8 qualities? I call them the 8 steps of deep learning. Now, as you listen to this, you can apply these 8 steps. The first, Shushrusha. Shushrusha is hunger to learn. Shravan is about listening very deeply. Now, friends, in modern times, we may not be only listening to the gurus or even to the Shastras. So it could be reading deeply. Remember that India focused on Shravan, and that was the reason why its knowledge cascaded down the years. Grahan, which is about absorbing what's listened to deeply. Dharan, reflection, even introspection. Vijnan is about creating associations with previous learning or with new ideas. Then is Uha, selecting that which is relevant for now. Apoha is setting aside what's not relevant. You can think of a chemist working in a laboratory, having got his required solution, he keeps away the remaining ingredients for use later. And finally, Tattva Abhinivesha, which is firmly focused on the crystallized truth. You can call this as wisdom. The transformation from information to knowledge to wisdom to insights is Vinay. Is there a way of thinking how to use this? I'm going to present to you a few questions. Dwell on these. These questions are as if from Chanakya itself, who would ask you the following question. How much time do I invest in conscious reflection? Please ask yourself. By what scientific means am I sharpening my intellect? How may I instill this 8-step deep learning method into my life? Okay, I don't know if this is something that you find as strange, because we have forgotten this method from Bharat. But even people abroad use this. In fact, I'm going to introduce you to a leader whom we all know. Warren Buffett is Vinay personified. Let's look at his mantras. He says, go to bed a little smarter each day. Why? That's how knowledge builds up. Like compound interest. A little each day, then multiplies. What does he do for that is most important. He says, I read. He reads 80% of his waking hours, or at least 500 pages, and think. So I do more reading and thinking and make less impulse decision than most people in business, says he. Friends, you can imagine that he doesn't just read. He reads and he absorbs and he reflects and he crystallizes them into wise decisions which are then applied in investing. No wonder he's got the results that he's got. Notwithstanding the last 15 days, he's lost a lot of money. But it's a great example of the application of Vinay. Now, let's go further and see what more is there about Vinay. When challenging times strike, Vinay is what helps discover solutions to burning issues. So let me refresh. Vinay is a quality of the intellect with those 8 attributes, which means it is a sharp intellect. It helps take decisions when normal people cannot think. Only leaders with Vinay can do it. And there are several examples. The ancient example, of course, is Chanakya himself. Chanakya was faced with invasion from the Greeks, but that Acharya was able to create Akhanda Bharat. He taught that method to Chandragupta Maurya. And in fact, the first volume of Arthashaastra, the first book, is called Vinaya Adhikaranam, which is the book of Vinay, a trained and disciplined mind. But in modern times also, there is a leader who has applied it. Have you heard of Mansukh Prajapati? He applied this in 2001. There was the great earthquake of Bhuj. I'm sure many of you will remember it. And it wreaked great havoc. It brought destruction of so many families and their livelihoods. Mansukh Prajapati was one of them. His pottery business was completely destroyed. There was a heading in the next day's newspaper that showed broken earthen pots. And it said, poor man's refrigerator is damaged. A regular person would have thought nothing of it. But Mansukh Prajapati with his Vinay developed it as a fantastic idea. Mansukh Prajapati had an excellent knowledge of materials, not in the modern material science way, but through his buddhi. He applied his knowledge of pottery and his family business of brick kilns. With the earthenware and with earth, the knowledge of mitti, he combined 2 other materials, which is sand and sawdust. And he created what would be the world's first refrigerator without electricity called Mitti Cool. And that became a revolution because this could be used by the poor who had no electricity. But friends, it would not have been possible if it hadn't been for the second person on your screen. The person on the right-hand side is another Swami. Several of you will know him. Some of you may have met him. Dr. Anil Gupta was a full-fledged Swami, a professor at IIM Ahmedabad till he retired in 2017. He was also the creator of something called as the Honeybee Network. And he made that entire ecosystem available to Mansukh Prajapati, because of which Mitti Cool reached the markets, and today Mansukh speaks across the world to several audiences, sharing his secrets. How interesting was that? So this brings us to the next lesson, that every Swami also needs a guide. So in Vinay itself, Chanakya says, Vinayasya Moolam Vriddhopa Seva. He also refers to it in the Arthashaastra as Vriddha Sayog, mentors or role models. The root of Vinay also lies in the service of mentors or role models. Now, service needn't be a literal seva, but it means going with humility to learn from such people, friends. I'm going to now introduce you to the final tool of Vinay, and that's called Dincharya. Now, Dincharya is a very simple tool to speak about, but very difficult to practice. So I'm going to first show to you, especially for those who have logged in only today, a sutra which I introduced last session. It is called Swami Amatya Janpada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakrutayah. The modern adaptation, the Swami, as I have introduced earlier, is the leader. Amatya, the manager, who is the deputy of the Swami or Swamini. Janpad, the customer. Durga today refers to the infrastructure, physical, digital, cultural. Kosh refers to finances. Danda refers to the workforce, the team. And Mitra are stakeholders, allies, and associates who make business also possible. These are the leaders' sphere of influence. If each of them is so important, then surely they must get attention. Now, Chanakya says the leaders, they either lend excellence to these constituent elements or destroy it. So each element needs to be given daily attention. That happens through the Dincharya. But the Dincharya is not just a timetable. Chanakya says he should divide, or it also means she should divide the day and night in conformity with his or her capacity and carry out the task. Now, what is this conformity with capacity? Chanakya, like all ancient wise people, had the knowledge of yoga and Ayurveda because Dincharya is a concept from Ayurveda and it speaks about the human capacity and energy. So, if you see now, Dincharya is also about utilization of available energy in the most efficient way. Let's see what's a simple way to create a Dincharya. I'm of course going to give you an overview of it. Luckily, we have a Swami today who will speak about it and tell you how he uses it. Your purpose has to be the overarching way in which your Dincharya flows. From that come the responsibilities. And from that come projects and various initiatives. Through those flow the daily tasks. These daily tasks have to get into those 7 elements of what I referred to as the saptam. Okay, I repeat, they were the leader, the manager, the customer, the infrastructure, the finances, the workforce, and the allies or the stakeholders. Dincharya is about doing daily and consistently. It enables maximization of not just time but also bandwidth by focusing on the 7 elements. It ensures preparation is maximized, risks are mitigated. The best part, friends, leaders can use Dincharya as a way of delegation and it can flow downwards and the reporting can be upwards with the Dincharyas of the Amartya. Having done this, now I have just 2 more things to share with you. The first are the questions from Chanakya on Dincharya. Please think about these. I'm going to give you a moment or two to dwell on this. Is your day planned well ahead of time? If yes, does everything get the required attention? What parts get more attention and what parts don't? I'm sure we are missing out on some elements. How do you help your direct reports, sometimes referred to as Amatyas, as you heard from me earlier, align their day's priorities with your own? Do you measure what you have accomplished against what was planned for the day in the Dincharya? Finally, I'm going to introduce you to a Swami who uses these tools. So friends, last time I spoke about a restaurant and that restaurant being in the hospitality business today does something else in these challenging times. They are helping people in containment zones get home delivery, but they are using their capability to also provide food to those who are needy, which are the police and the medical staff. So Praful is the founder of Chiranjeevi Hospitality Group, and they do a variety of things, including run fine dining restaurants called Malacca Spice, and also they are farm hospitality, consulting, and also a training Gurukul. Last but not the least, I want to tell you, Praful also is there on the MCA, the Maharashtra Cricket Association. He also devotes time to his school's alumni body and help them build a Olympic-sized swimming pool. How does he manage all of this? So let's welcome Praful. Praful, can you please come in?
Thank you, Rajesh. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Could you switch to video? Yes, thank you.
Is the video not clear? Okay.
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a very good introduction. I'm not exactly on the MCA board yet, but just a clarification on that. But yes, I am involved in grassroots development of many sports, including cricket, and I have been part of the Maharashtra Premier League, which was being held in Maharashtra for some years.
Right. So, Praful, let me ask you a question, and after which I think our other panelists could also get something out of you.
Yes.
Could you please share what it was about Chanakya's teachings at first to try and learn them and later apply them? What appealed to you?
In our learnings, we were constantly focused towards the West, because obviously our education has been in English. The schools and colleges we attended, the work experience we had was sometimes abroad. So you always lean towards Western management thought. But throughout my career as an entrepreneur, I felt there was something missing, because I was looking at Indian problems and trying to find Indian solutions for it, but always using Western management thought for that. And that always let me not work as naturally, as genuinely as I thought I would. And I was always looking for something else. So at one Western management seminar, which I think one of our human care director, Amita Menon, took us to, I noticed you in the crowd, and I knew you before. And then we had a conversation, and then it led to our conversations with you started, and then we realized the potential that we had in real learnings for our management style in Chanakya, Arthashaastra.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Praful, hi. This is Sridhar Dharmarajan.
Hi,
I just want to.
How are you?
Hi, Praful, and I just want to check what has changed since you adopted the teachings from Arthashaastra. Can you substantiate
Yes.
journey with Indian wisdom, with some data points such as revenue growth, expansion, education, and employee retention as well?
Yes. So our management style changed completely once we started with the Arthashaastra, and it became very genuine, very natural, and very in sync with the sensibilities of our Indian workforce and, of course, the Indian leadership that we had within our organization. We could percolate the teachings of the Arthashaastra downwards into our organization in an easy storytelling style, which kind of stuck with our workforce, with our leadership, and it was easy to implement when it came to putting out in action. And this really helped us seamlessly manage many activities pre-COVID. Now, any kind of management thought is best tested in a pandemic or in a very high crisis situation, maybe like a war, or in our case, we are experiencing this black swan event, which is a beautiful test, and we've been tested well. What I'm happy to report is that because of the Arthashaastra learnings and, of course, understanding Indrajaya, understanding Vinay, understanding Dincharya, what is able to continue our development of our Swamis, which is our leadership. And they are seamlessly moving on to more development. Our Amatyas are continuing to learn and to take decisions which have clarity of thought, where they're clearly saying, okay, this is a pandemic, we are moving in this direction, we are willing to take such extreme steps to stabilize the business. The understanding and the faith in this thinking, this ancient Indian thinking, is natural. It's not brought in from somewhere else. So it has helped us really take it forward in a time which is so critical. The Swami development, which is the leadership development in crisis, has continued in a beautiful manner, in the sense that not only are we immediately approaching vriddhas, in the sense that people who have maybe seen some kind of crisis in their existence, or may have more knowledge and take help from them, or are in similar businesses and learn from them, but we are also managing to see that each of our Swamis, when we have a core team meeting, we are trying to find out how they are developing themselves. For example, our human care director, Amita Menon, is developing her love for healing in our wellness vertical called Helium, and she's reaching out to more people than ever before in this crisis than when it was in pre-COVID times. She's reaching out to family, to crew, to people across in the general community, and she's developing better and better modules to kind of go forward. I mean, I don't see that happening if she was not so deep into the thought process of Arthashaastra. Our CEO, Srijit Ravindran, has found a new development in his love for economics and has applied it to our operational thought process. When in hospitality, which is really heavily impacted, we are still managing to help communities. We are suffering, but we are looking and we are more sensitive to the community suffering, and we are going out there. We are not only combining with our charity foundation, Live Life, Love Life, and we are generating funds which are unheard of, providing ventilators, providing meals, providing PPEs for doctors. We are really going out there because we have learned so much, thanks to Rajesh Kamath. We have seen leaders develop like Pradeep Nair, who's actually the most to suffer because he's also an entrepreneur. He's an entrepreneur within an entrepreneur, though he's with us as an F&B controller, but he's suddenly realizing that how we can increase capacity and help the organization create long shelf life, pace which we can sell in stores and still develop the thought process. So what I'm trying to get to is that when a crisis comes, we are tested, and the management thought has in fact expanded. So I think we've been able to control our lag path. We've been able to learn a lot more, and we've been able to really take forward our teachings on Dincharya, which I am willing to explain a little later in this chat.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear. Fantastic application of this ancient wisdom to the business during modern times. Thank you so much for your response.
Thank you. Thank you.
Namaskaram, Prafulla.
Namaste.
So wonderful to hear your experience. This is Vikram. I had a question
Hi,
for you.
Yes.
Please tell us how the three powerful Chanakyan tools of Vinay, Indriya Vichaya, Dincharya were made part of Malaka's DNA.
See, primarily the way we looked at it was when Rajesh first started talking to me as a leader of an organization. After about 5 or 6 sessions, I immediately realized that these learnings which I was inculcating or getting in had to be sent down into our organization very quickly. So we could actually make it a tremendous part of our DNA, and that it would work constantly for us in the future. So all our thoughts on Vinaya, Indrajaya, and Dincharya are coming together in the constant, consistent, diligent performance, which is the hallmark of all prosperity. If you look at sport, if you look at, let's say, a Virat Kohli or a Sachin Tendulkar, if you look at any enterprise, whether it is any of the guys who are, for example, a Warren Buffett example was given, where he is a personification, as Rajesh says, of Vinaya, where he continuously also develops his knowledge and keeps working on it, was continuously applied with us. So, for example, we decided that only consistent and diligent performance will lead to prosperity and greatness. So what we started doing right away, and in a very practical way, I requested Rajesh to say that let us focus purely on VID, where, for example, in Indrajaya, we would work on all the aspects of lag path in ourselves. So we could literally go out there and say, let us control our senses and work on it on a regular and daily basis. But how do you put it into practice? How do people in the audience say, okay, this is fine in theory, how do you put it into practice? So we brought in the practice of Dincharya every single day, which is a very practical, beautiful system, which works on the Saptang, which is for us a very natural thing at the moment at Malacca Spice, which basically works with, let's say, Swami, that is me, myself. But Swami, actually, if you go down the line to Srijit, who's the CEO, to my human care director, who's Amita Menon, they themselves, they might be my Amatyas, but they themselves are Swamis, and then they have their Amatyas. So it is like a layered system where you develop yourself first as a Swami. You get into thought processes, you get into study for yourself, introspection, study, improvement of yourself, meditation, and you improve yourself first. Because unless you improve yourself and you become a Swami, you cannot develop the environment. For us, the environment was all the different verticals that we had. So how do you develop it unless you develop yourself within? So we went and said, let us develop the Swami first. So I started developing myself. Amita started developing herself. Srijit started developing herself. At the same time, our coach, our guru, Rajesh, himself started developing himself in many aspects. So it goes up and down beautifully. So then we took the Swami, then we took the Amatya. Amatya is basically the subordinate. And in every vertical that we had, whether it was agriculture, in our farms, which was a very new field for us, and we were learning agriculture, we had a Swami there. Then in wellness, we had a Swami. In helium, that was Amita. Then we had our Gurukuls, which had two different Swamis. Sometimes it would be Srijit, sometimes it would be Amita, sometimes it would be me who would be part of the Gurukul and spread our learnings to the community. Hospitality, of course, which is a natural business, which is Malacca Spice, whether it's our cloud kitchens, which were developed with Vrudopaseva, by the way, where we learned from the best in the business, younger entrepreneurs who came and taught me over just a meal, where they came and taught me how they were doing their businesses. And I realized that in India, the knowledge flows beautifully once you just ask. So in Vrudopaseva, we went out. Vrudopaseva is going to someone who may be younger than you, sometimes even decades younger than you, but who has more experience in a field. So in the field of cloud kitchens, we went to Rebel Foods, who was actually my neighbor. I just called him up and I said, hey, come in and tell me how you do Beru's biryani. How do you do Fasos? Come and teach me, because I want to start my cloud kitchens. And we started 4 brands of cloud kitchens. Hospitality was one like that. So sport. In sport, I developed all the sorts of fields where grassroots development of swimming, grassroots development of basketball, getting people together, generating huge amount of funds for my school, working on a program with the Maharashtra Cricket Association where we want to develop school cricket, and of course our great charity foundation, which is Live Life, Love Life Charity Foundation, which has constantly, even in this pandemic, continued to help people who are afflicted with cancer and do not have the money for the treatment. And at the same time, people who are struck with COVID or are frontline warriors in the COVID battle. We have been able to adapt and move and be nimble, primarily because we are real students of the Chanakya Sutras and Arthashaastra.
Truly inspiring, Anna. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
There's so much to learn and do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Hello? Yes?
Question from one of our participants, Ashish Khanna.
Yes.
And he says, I'm from Hospitality Group 2 and wanted to understand how are you managing the pressure of cost while doing all CSR and employee benefits when the cash flow is severely affected and there is no sight of end of this tunnel yet.
So the question is, how do you manage the cost when cash flows are low, and how do you still remember that we are supposed to be great Swamis? Now, when we are studying the Chanakya Arthashastra, and it has percolated down the levels all the way down to our crew, it is very natural for them to have a faith and to have a confidence in their leadership. And they are willing to take deep pay cuts. They are willing on their own. They have come forward on their own to say, we will help as one team, as one nation to fight this calamity, and we will go ahead. So we have had very, very less number of people leaving us, or even attrition for that matter, in all the years that we have been functioning as Malacca Spice. That is one of our hallmarks, where we really have very low attrition. But we also have these kind of policies where we keep the doors open. If someone leaves us, we leave the door open and we say, please come back. Amita has been successful in creating alumni of all the people who have left us. And we call them once a year or twice a year to have a party with us at our farms. And all of them come back and share stories, what they have experienced in the industry outside. So when you have an environment like this, it is very difficult to say that we will not cross this. So whether it is the pressure of cost, whether it is the pressure of uncertainty, it is the pressure of fear, because we don't know what the future holds, everyone holds strong. That is the importance of this.
Thank you so much, Praful. And I have another question to ask you. Could you share something about your own Swadhyay? Over the years and discipline, what changes do you think have you brought on in your life through your Swadhyay, and how do you encourage your team?
Right. So we usually lead by example. So when I basically let the team see what I do, including my children. I don't tell them what to do. I only do what I do, and they see that. When they see that, they learn it quickly. So in the same way in Swadhyay, where I introspect, my introspections are deep and they are critical, and they are as well not flattering at most times. So I learn a lot from my own introspections. I have many weaknesses which I identify. I write them down and I work on them. I actually take help from Rajesh, from my Amatyas as well. The meditation comes naturally when we are faced with a lot of stress, which all human beings will face in pandemics or in personal tragedies. We face stress. So one of the things that is a gift to all of us is an understanding of Dhyan. And Dhyan has been beautiful for our entire team at Malacca Spice. So when I started meditating, it was natural for me to extend it to each and every crew member. In 2013, we started meditating together, and everybody at Malacca Spice meditates voluntarily every single day, and on Friday mandatorily. So what happens is they develop their own little journey within, and it gives them clarity. The clarity is beautiful to have when the proverbial shit hits the fan. I'm sorry to use that word, but that's what usually happens. When the tragedies strike, you need to have clarity of thought. And clarity of thought comes only through deep dhyan or meditation. And I encourage every one of the participants today who are listening to me that more importantly is the development of the Swami, and then everything else follows within the Saptang, which is the 7 different activities. So the 7 different verticals that you will have to handle in your business. So start with the development of the Swami. Without the development of the Swami, that is yourself, your leadership, that is your development, where everything lies. All your greatness lies within the Swami. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Praful, for sharing those incredible experiences. I'm pretty sure all of us listening to your experiences will get really motivated and inspired. I would like to hand over the session to Rajesh now.
So the key takeaways of the day are, we covered the 6 vices. Some people in the audience were asking questions what they are. I'm also going to refer to the pulse because some questions were over there. Pulse is purpose, legacy, sustainability, and economic well-being. Okay, that was from the first time. LACPAF refers to lust, anger, greed, pride, arrogance, and foolhardiness. These, when overcome, now they can never be totally overcome ever, but one has to keep working on control. That control is Indriya Jaya. That can be done with the help of Vinay. Vinay had the 8 steps of deep learning. And I also referred to Vruddha Sanyog and Vruddhopaseva, which is learning from a person who is a role model or a mentor. Prabhu gave you an example of the same. And then finally comes the Dincharya. Now I know several of you asked how to operationalize the Dincharya. I wish I could do an explanation of that just over a presentation, but I will give you an overview. We spoke about the eight parts, or the 7 parts called the Saptang. So essentially, the day needs to give attention to each of this, starting with yourself. Chanakya refers to giving at least 3 hours to your Swadhyaya, to your meditation. This also includes your family time. Remember, as a leader, your family time and you don't have different times, right? That's the hard reality. So that's first. Second is devoting time to the development or simply listening to your matyas, your team members. Then allocating time to your customers, their experiences, their feedback, and so on. Then to infrastructure, and that infrastructure, if not physical, can be digital, which is the most applicable one today. Also to the culture. Then to financial matters. Then to your team or your workforce. And finally to your allies, your various stakeholders. Stakeholders can be people like dealerships, your supply chain management people. They can be consultants, they can be coaches, and so on and so forth. So a Dincharya has to be balanced with these 7. All of it needs to be given time. Of course, there's a structure which Chanakya has recommended, but I'm going to not go into the details of that now. Just wanted to give you an idea. This Dincharya followed daily can really help you become a true Swami or Swami. With that, we come to the close of the session. I'm so thankful to all of you participants for making this effort to learn Indian wisdom from 2,500 years back. Now we are going to take some of your questions and I will try and respond to them to the best of my abilities. I'm also going to welcome you to write into me on mail. Please give me 24 hours to revert back to them in case your responses are not given today. Over to you, Sridharan.
Hey, hi. Thank you, Rajesh. I think that was a real experience, I would say, very well connected to the first session that you actually did, where we really discussed the concepts of the Swami and then what are the tools that we need to really kind of execute, use it to ensure that our day-to-day activities are actually kind of taken care. How do we plan? And that was a great action item that you actually given today. Now, before we really go to Q&A, I just wanted to make a small announcement. In fact, we are having a very interesting presentation coming up in the next weekend. So I would just like Vikas to kind of display a note on that presentation. We have amongst us a champion, Mr. Murali Shivaraman, who I would say that is like a champion of crisis. He's really kind of managed a lot of crises in his life. When he was in Singapore, he managed the SARS crisis, and then he managed the oil crash crisis, the MERS crisis in China, and he's really come on top. So when I personally kind of spent a lot of time with him and all the other Isha Leadership Academy people as well, there was a lot of insights that we could actually get from Murali. So we really want to do a classroom session. So this is just not a webinar. This is actually a 4-part classroom session during the weekends, 16th, 17th, 23rd, and 24th. We'll start around 11:30 in the morning. And I would strongly encourage all of you to participate. And you'll actually get a registration link going forward. And this I would say is a lot of action items as to how are you going to go through this COVID crisis. And whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're an MSME customer, whether you're working for a large multinational company, we have kind of worked out this content of the modules, and you would really kind of enjoy this whole session, and there would be a lot of takeaways going forward. So let me get back to the Q&A for Rajesh. Rajesh, a lot of questions. I would say more than 100 questions today, and Post this lockdown 3.0, we already went through 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. There is a continuing fear of the second wave of pandemic. At the same time, if the lockdown continues, it may be a disaster for the economy as well. So what would Chanakya say? Economy first or safety first?
Right. So the first thing to remember is who is a Swami. The Swami is the one with a purpose. And for those especially who were there in the last session, I had said that Praja Sukhe Sukham Ragyah, Praja Nam Cha Hite Hitam. The nation came first for the king. The organization comes first for the leader, which means that the health of the organization's people comes first. Jaan hai to jaan hai is also what Chanakya believed in. Therefore, he has a sutra, of course, it's in Chanakya Niti, which says that if the need be to save one's life, of course, this is applicable only to the Swami and in difficult circumstances. He says, if the need be, one should be ready to even give up one's country to save one's life. Why? Because the king and the Swami today, the leader today, has to be able to save the lives of his or her people. Then comes the economy. Economy can be rebuilt. Chanakya truly believes that the entire business depends on the abilities of the leader. The leader can build from scratch. Hence, life first and then economics. Next question, please.
Thank you so much. That was really very, very useful. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajesh, for that answer. I have a question from someone specifically on the IT industry. The question is that they're facing a huge uncertainty of employment in their business because the clients have reduced significantly, business has gone down in these times. The question is, what would Chanakya advise to do in this situation? How to cover up this situation in this crisis?
Right. So let's go back to what we covered in the session. The answer lies in vid, but within that, I would specifically refer to Swadhyay. Swadhyay is study by self of that which is very, very relevant to your industry. Okay. Now, that's very important because we have to continuously enhance our capability. Chanakya has another sutra which says, Swashaktim gyaptva karyam arabhet. You understand your strengths before you start off on any project. This also applies to growing and enhancing one's strength. So my advice to the person who has asked this question, doesn't matter which industry you are in, concentrate on growing your capability, not just of today, but of tomorrow and as far as you can see. What's going to be relevant? As long as you keep building that, have no fear. Even if one job goes away, you will be in demand. Focus on self-mastery just the way Chanakya and Chandragupta Maurya did. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Yes.
Question for you. The 8-step learning process which we went through today seems extremely elaborate, right? And wouldn't the time taken to go through this process hamper our decision making?
Right. Good question. So I want to explain this with an example. If you see the Ved, right? Especially the 3 Ved, but you can take all the Veds. The Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, and the Atharva Ved. These were not written. These were remembered for centuries. You know why that was possible? That was possible because of the power of the mind, Vinay. Which means that if one develops actually this 8-step process, the mind becomes extremely powerful. It takes some time to develop, there's no doubt about it. But what we have done is in the in modern times, and especially even in times of COVID crisis, we have taken to shortening all our learning steps. So we download everything and upload nothing, right? And as a result of that, we have been shortchanged in our own thinking abilities. So actually, and you know this from even modern management, it may take just 21 days, maybe a month, to practice and sharpen this 8-step learning process. But once you get it, you will be able to use it for life, and then your learning is shortened for everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Now I have a question again. In fact,
Yes.
this is a common thread which has come from a few people, and it's basically many businesses are being wiped out at this point of time, and there is also no idea as to how long it may take to rebuild.
Right.
How is it possible to maintain calmness in such a situation and carry oneself through?
Right. Yeah. So Chanakya says, Rajana Uttitam Anutishtante Brutyaha, which basically says, as is the energy of the leader, so is the energy of the rest of the organization. The followers literally, but rest of the organization. Which means what? The Swami or Swamini has to be the role model. So one has to begin by becoming a role model first. I think Praful said it beautifully. Work on yourself. How is it possible to be calm? Is to first tell yourself that the rest of the organization depends on me. As you will be calm and composed, so will the rest of your organization begin to take more confidence in the fact that you will be able to guide them. I see many organizations that the leaders are running helter-skelter, and therefore people are losing faith. So start with the Swami or the Swami of focusing on self. Practice meditation if you can. If not, at least do your Svadhyaya, and you will find that with time, your energy, your aura will begin to show on the people. More and more people will be able to keep calm. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Rajesh, I have a question. When you really spoke about anger being one of the 6 vices to give up, I was just thinking, wasn't Chanakya himself so angry that he so as to swear revenge on the Nandas to the Nandas? Wasn't he an angry person?
Right. So good. You really asked on behalf of lots of people in our audience who probably have the same doubt. Now, I want to explain that it is a perception that we as Indians have created, that it is out of anger that he swore revenge. It is out of anger that he said that he will wipe out the Nanda dynasty. If you ask me, it was brilliantly thought out and expressed with effect, telling very clearly what his purpose was. His purpose, he had come approaching Magad, and by virtue of that, Dhananand, to take charge for uniting the nation, for leading the nation. What an opportunity. When it was refused, then Chanakya said that since you are not able to take charge, I'm going to make sure that you are not here, and I'm going to ensure someone else can take the responsibility. So it was well thought out. It was not out of anger. It was expressed with aggression, as should be, to put fear in the hearts of leaders who actually sit on, I would say, in their ivory towers and great thrones, but do not use their responsibility for building the nation or building their business. So that's it's not anger at all.
Essentially, what you're saying, he was more assertive rather than aggressive or something.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Rajesh. I have a question. As a leader, if I were to reach out to Chanakya, what would he recommend or advise me on quick recovery post this lockdown and this imminent slowdown we all are facing?
Right. So now everyone wants to have a very quick recovery. Actually, last time I had mentioned, of course, VID will of course help. But last time I had mentioned something which was very important, which I'll say in two parts today. One is with respect to recovery of people, and second is with respect to business. Both have to go hand in hand. So with respect to business, I had said Karya Sankateshu Artha Vyavasayini Buddhihi, which I had said innovate with whatever resources you have now. Think of the opportunities within the crisis. Okay, for instance, when I'll take the example that I mentioned today, think about what Shrikant Bolla did. Right now, it was a crisis that he faced through life, but he knew that there is a crisis that is ongoing in the lives of people with disabilities. But he also knew that there is another ecological crisis where people use material indiscriminately and dump them into our environment. He brought these three together. He used the situation to create a business called Bolland Industries, which today has become a model business. Right? So that's one. Second, I had mentioned was about developing an inventory of capabilities both for today and for the future. And I said, make that inventory irrespective of levels and location, right? And then map them to the people who are there. If need be, understanding that it's also an economic crisis, I said, renegotiate with people the amount of time and effort that they need to give, and hence the respective employee contracts, including the money. So many new things which were not done earlier will need to get done. That's the way to a speedy recovery. Of course, all keeping our mind as a Swami or Swami.
Rajesh, thank you so much. I think we just about few minutes. I think we just about exceeded about for 1 minute. So before we end with a question, I would request the audience to answer the poll questions. I really would like Anand to kind of post those poll questions. So you'll have about 5 minutes to answer those questions. Please answer those questions. It'll really kind of help us. It's a good feedback for us how we can do better in the next sessions. And while you're actually answering the poll question, I have a final question to ask Rajesh. The Chanakya Niti suggests that one should not be straight. Straight trees are axed first. What's your comment on this?
Right. So it's a very popularly posted quote of Chanakya. I want to say that, first of all, this quote comes from Chanakya Niti. Last time I mentioned, for those who are not there, that Chanakya Niti is not a starting point for those who want to be leaders. Okay? Arthashaastra is. Yes. The Arthashaastra clearly states that the Swami needs to put himself or herself on the line. Now, that does not mean taking, risk carelessly. No, I'm not saying that. It means that I am the one who is the first to lead, no matter how difficult the situation. Now, about not being straight, Chanakya has said that everything needs to be done righteously. But that said, if the purpose is noble, at times one needs to deal with, I would call as bad people in the same way. Okay, you can find this in all our epics, especially in the Mahabharata, where certain strategies need to be dealt with. But please don't make this a uniformity in dealing. Chanakya never said that we need to be all crooked, otherwise we'll be axed. No, lead a straight life and have the right purpose. Everything will go well. And don't forget to use VID, which is Vinay, Indriya Jaya and Dincharya. I guarantee you it will improve your life. Please reach out to me if you need help on using these tools.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rajesh. It was really a great, enriching session. And you've really given some good tool sets for us to reflect upon. And with this, we have come to an end of our session today. I would like to hand it over to Vikas for any final comments that we may have before we close the session.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.